the arms into an internally rotated position, backs of the hands facing each other. And then just take one wrist on top of the other. It doesn't matter which. And we're not going to interlace the fingers, although that feels tempting. Just keep the fingers nice and straight. And then bend the elbows so you can thread your head through. And then once your arms are behind your ears, straighten them up. So it's kind of snaking the arms around each other. And then keeping the arms there, you're automatically in a thoracic opening here. So just making sure, like my instruction earlier in dog, to not separate the rib cage from the pelvis. So we're keeping a pretty strong connection there. And then as we bend the knees, we're coming into something akin to Utkatasana. But again, even though we sort of open out into a back bend with Utkatasana, keeping this sense of lines drawn between lower floating ribs and the fronts of the hips. Just particularly for us at this level, our tendency is to be bendy, which is great. We have freedom, we have mobility, we're really accustomed to these postures. That said, super important to stay very strong. So often with people who are very stiff and rigid, there's a silver lining there, they're stable. Those of us who are a little bit more mobile can often be unstable. So just bringing yourself back into that yin attitude of, yeah, I want to be open and free and flexible, but also I want to support that journey so that I'm never in danger. So you've got that kind of umbilical cord to safety all the time, even as you explore. And then just straightening the knees and letting the arms come down and shake them out, because we can often find a little bit of tightness in the shoulders. Sometimes with mudras above the head as well, we can get pins and needles, so shaking out. And then we'll switch sides. So whichever side you wouldn't naturally choose, let that come on top and keep your fingers straight. Bend the elbows, send the arms back behind the head. And really find that sense of kind of balance between sun and moon, opening the chest, but keeping the front ribs almost pointing down into the hips. And then as you bend your knees, maybe go a little deeper into Utkatasana this time, bend your knees, take weight into the heels. You can open back more, but let it come from the heart, asking to see the ceiling rather than dipping into the lumbar spine. Keep the breath deep, press the palms together. Press the knees together, plugging the shoulder blades into the back as you would do for Palakasana, plank pose. Now just let the arms come down, keep the knees bent. We're going to open out into Utthita Hasta Padangastasana B, but from bent legs first. So I'll mirror you, I'll face you and mirror you. Just taking the left hand onto the waist or the left hip, and then taking hold of the right big toe with the middle and index fingers. So we've got the both knees bent at the same time here. We're going to open the right leg out to the right and sort of grow into it. So as we do this, it's not just about straightening the legs. As we straighten the base leg, we're pushing the foot down even more so. And as we're straightening the lifted leg, we're pushing that big toe into the fingertips. So there's this sense of, you know, a lot of strength going on. And then if you've got your balance, you're looking over your left shoulder, drishti to the left. So engaging the lower belly, engaging Mula Bandha, engaging the left buttock in particular. Try to keep the hips aligned so your right leg doesn't have to be straight out to the side at all. It can be at a little angle to prioritize that pelvic stability. Standing up as tall as possible. Now we'll bend both legs and just gently come down. Right hand to right hip or waist. Take the left big toe with your middle and index finger, and then we grow out in all directions, pushing right foot into ground more and extending that left leg to the left. Standing up tall. And then if you're steady in your balance, your drishti goes out over the right shoulder. Engaging the belly, the bandhas, and the right buttock. Legs are straight and strong. Spinal column straight and strong. And then bending both knees, keeping the knees bent. We're just coming into that kind of semi-squat position. And we'll interlace the fingers behind into Baddha Konasana. Yogi's choice whether or not you want to put the heels of the hands together. No right or wrong with that. Just find what's comfiest for your joints there. And we're really in this kind of open Utkatasana feeling again. But the arms back in Baddha Konasana, bound fingers, allows us to kind of stay open across the chest as well as up and down. So from there, we're going to stand into the right foot and then let the left leg extend out. We're going to point the toes of the left leg and lift a little higher than we would do normally in Warrior 3. We're staying in the crouching warrior, so standing leg, right leg stays bent. Use the Baddha Konasana, the bound fingers, to open the chest and keep it open. And imagine that you've got eyes where your heart is and look forwards. Have your drishti coming from the hrid, from the heart space. Really strong and straighten that lifted leg. Doesn't matter if there's a little bit of external rotation. Just make sure that your right buttock is strong. And then release. Stand your left foot back onto the ground. Keep your knees bent and take the opposite interlace in the fingers. Open the chest again. Again, maintaining that awareness of front ribs down as part of the hips. And then from there, lifting the right leg up, send it out behind us, and then a little higher than the hip, and point the toes. Keep the left knee bent. You can lift the arms as much as you can. Let your chest come forwards. Maybe lift that lifted leg a little higher than the hip, really feeling it into the lifted leg buttock as well. Keep the breathing steady. Even though this is quite like Virabhadrasana Trini or Warrior 3, it's an old-fashioned version of tree from the old syllabus, quite like it. And then standing that foot down and bend the knees. We'll just take the fingertips onto the ground and inhale, straightening the legs from there. Exhale, we're crossing at the wrists again, but this time in a different way. And take the right palm underneath the outside of the left foot and the left palm underneath the outside of the right foot. And if you've got the mobility there, bend the elbows. So you're draping your forearms over the dorsum of the feet, folding into Uttanasana from there, breathing deeply. It's a little bit of a balance there, a little bit of a coordination as well. So just go easy with yourself, be forgiving. And folding in, again, the forehead in any of these positions doesn't really have to touch the shins, even if you can. It's not really the be all and end all. Think more about the ribs being on the thighs so that the hip flexion is really good.